It's always good to look back, at least as far as you look ahead. And so just a quick reminder, this was the state, when we talk about 2020, we were just as far from 2020 as we are from 2002. And this was the state of the art. Encyclopedias came on CD-ROMs. I loved the Palm VX. And note up there, $7,000 for a 24-inch LCD. I don't know how many of you bought that, but I certainly regret my purchase. It's going to happen faster. Everyone in this audience knows all about Moore's law. I'm going to briefly mention Metcalfe's law. Metcalfe's law is the law that says the value of a network grows as a square of the number of nodes. People are still debating as to whether it grows as a square, but it's very clear that just as with Moore's law, which is exponential growth, networks get power through exponential growth as well. The classic example is the fax machine. Fax machine had been around actually since the 19th century. Journalists used it to transmit photographs and text. Indeed, the predecessor to the New York Times owned some of the patents on the fax machine. Fax machine, just nothing really happened. Around 1984, all of a sudden, something amazing happened. And within a matter of 6 years, adoption went straight up. The functionality didn't change much. The price actually didn't change much. What happened was all of a sudden you knew enough people with fax machines that it was worthwhile for you to get a fax machine. And then as soon as you got a fax machine, there were that many more people who had fax machines. So that is why it's Moore's law combined with Metcalfe's law that means that if it seems to you like change is happening faster, the reason is it is. What I'm interested in is what is the laptop replacement? What's device X, where I go into the store 5 years from now and I say, device X, laptop, device X does everything I want. I think I'll get that. Now, some people would argue we've already got that device X in the form of the iPhone or some of the smartphones. But I'm going to suggest we're just at the beginning of that. Because really, people look at something like, let's see, this phone's 6 months old, so it's already obsolete. But they look at something like this and they go, well, that's fine, but this is a pretty small screen. And then, you slide out the keyboard, you could maybe make keyboards a little smaller, but they're not making fingers any smaller. So isn't this sort of a dead end? It's not. I was at the biggest cell phone show in the world recently, the one in Barcelona. Actually, it's just starting again, so this was a year ago, the GSM show. Very frustrating for Americans, because you go there and you see all these incredibly cool phones that we're not going to have for years, because our system is relatively far behind. It's really good for futurists, though. You just go around and you pick up all the brochures from South Korea and come back here and say, I have seen the future. I'm giving away all the secrets of being a futurist today. But someone had taken a phone there and done two things to it. On the front of the phone, they put basically a small chip that projected a virtual keyboard in bright red light on any flat surface. Now, you can actually buy those today. They're about the size of the phone. The next generation is chip-sized and is built into the phone, projects the keyboard. You just type away on it. It records every keystroke. On the back of the phone, they put what's called a Pico Projector, which is essentially an LCD projector shrunk down to the size of a slightly thick stick of gum that threw a 30 by 40-inch full-color, high-resolution image on any flat surface. So now you had a mobile device, but when you wanted to use it in a stationary area, you just set it down like this. You have a keyboard in front of you, and you have the projector up here. By the end of this decade, we will see heads-up goggles as a well-accepted user interface. Now, bear with me for a second on this. I've started to play with these myself. They are a military item right now, but a number of people are trying to commercialize them. Essentially what they are is you put on glasses. They look like ordinary glasses, a little chunkier perhaps at this point. The pair that was made for me has prescription lenses, because I need prescription lenses. But down here, you see your computer screen connected by Bluetooth to your mobile device. You can go out on the street, see Google Maps. I mean, it's really pretty amazing how well it works. But it basically looks clear the rest of the time. Now, it's interesting. I looked at this a few years ago, and I said, that is crazy. No glasses like that. But now I see how many of us walk through airports with those blinking Bluetooth headsets, and, especially for today's 10-year-olds, this is not going to be a jump at all. And actually, I think there'll be a boomer market, too, because these will all have cameras built in. that are connected to the web. So one function that'll be really easy to implement is you have your heads-up goggles on, you walk up to someone, you think you can't remember their name. It takes a picture, it searches the web, it searches Facebook, it comes back moments later, Bob Junderson. Hey, Bob, it's good to see you. That's going to sell. I've known Steve Jobs for a long time. About 5 years ago, I asked him, Steve, what kind of computer are you going to be making when you're 75? And he thought about it for a second, and he said, well, okay, it's let's say it's your first adult computer. You know, I am now a man, I am now a woman, you're 12 years old, and you get your first adult computer. And you take it out of the box. It's a thin tablet, super high resolution, full color, constant high-speed connection to the cloud, enormous amounts of resident memory, GPS, and lots of intelligence. So you take this thing out, and it's got voice input and voice output. You take it out, and it says, hi, what's your name? And you say, Steve. It says, oh, hi, nice to meet you, Steve. And this becomes your constant companion. Everything, your homework, all your music, all your movies, every email that you write, every Twitter, absolutely everything you do goes into this device. This is the center of your life, and you carry it with you all the time. And it becomes your constant companion and your helper, because it's got a lot of intelligence. And so Steve says, for example, one day you're walking, it's Wednesday afternoon, and the computer knows you're walking because it's got GPS. And it says, Steve, where are we going? And you say, I'm going to my tennis lesson. And it says, oh, okay, do we go to our tennis lesson every Wednesday afternoon? If so, I'll remind you from now on. So it insinuates itself into your life. It becomes this constant helper looking for things to support you with. And then Steve ends the story this way. He says, and then one day you're 18 years old. It's Friday night. You're sitting in your bedroom, and the computer says, Steve, why aren't we out tonight? And you say, well, I just broke up with my girlfriend. And the computer says, Steve, it's the third time it's happened that way. You want to talk about it? So that's Steve's vision. And I tell you, I've learned not to bet against Steve, so stay tuned on that one.